The NFL season has officially come to an end, but the show must go on. We have free agency right around the corner. Exactly a month away is when legal tampering will get lifted. What's funny about legal tampering, you will start to see some of these guys get unofficially signed before that date. So let me know how that works. So technically, free agency starts today. We have our top 10 free agents where I think they will be suiting up next season. Let me know what free agent you want to see on your team down in the comments. First, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, Trey Hendrickson. A bad breakup between him and the Cincinnati Bengals. If this man signs with my first team, the Baltimore Ravens, it will make for the most insane villain arc of all free agency. Trey Hendrickson sacking Joe Burrow twice a year. You couldn't write it better in a comic book yourself. I would love to see Trey Hendrickson go to the Ravens. Next, the Chicago Bears. I think you can keep adding depth to that D-line. What have the last two Super Bowl teams had that has just dominated and decimated the teams they've played? Absolute ridiculous pass rushing D-lines. You got a D-line in Seattle that can get through some of the best O-lines in the league. You got defensive lines in the Eagles that can dominate and decimate some of the best defense or offensive lines in the league. And then you look at my third option, the Detroit Lions, where Trey Hendrickson has been linked to, I swear, over the past 3 years. You had Aiden Hutchinson 1 year. He was really the only factor on the D-line. You add McNeil, you add, Lord, I hope I said that name right. You add a few other guys, and the D-line looked a lot better this year. If you go and put Trey Hendrickson next to Aiden Hutchinson, I don't want to say it, the Detroit Lions will be Super Bowl favorites if they can stay healthy. On the defense, seeing Trey Hendrickson and Aiden Hutchinson absolute dominate the NFC would be insane. It would make me sick to my stomach, but I think that is an amazing landing spot for this amazing defensive player. Next, we have Breece Hall. Now, running backs are a little tricky because we just watched a running back and really a team go all season and dominate with the run. Talking about the Seattle Seahawks were bottom 3 when it came to pass attempts in the NFL, but what they dominated with was defense and an insane run game. I think that's going to add a little bit more value to running backs like Breece Hall. You could see him go to the Houston Texans, where will Joe Mixon ever be healthy again? Will Woody Marks stay healthy? You got a whole running back, Nick Chubb. There's not a single running back in the Texans running back room that has proven they can stay healthy. I guess in the end, can Breece Hall really stay healthy? But when you get a guy in Breece Hall, he can run it through the guards. He can run it on the outside of the tackles. He can receive it out of the backfield. I think he is a very dynamic guy, and he's a younger running back that you can have lead your backfield. Maybe you move off Mixon, Chubb, create as much cap space as you possibly can. I think the Texans are a solid landing spot. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who, again, are in that hole of, we got an aging Kareem Hunt, who I think might even be a free agent. We have Isaiah Pacheco. I can never say his name right. Can he stay healthy? He runs so hard, but is he the dynamic back that Breece Hall could be? And then one of my favorites, you have the Carolina Panthers, who need to continue to build on what they have. And is Rico Dowdle that guy? Is Chuba Hubbard that guy? Are you going to lose Rico Dowdle in free agency? Is someone going to want to leave? You have to bolster that run game, and you have to keep building on the roster you have. I think Breece Hall, even though he does have an injury history, can bring something to that team that is going to take them from this level to this level, and that could absolutely be the difference in winning the division this coming season. Next, we have Devin Lloyd, which I went and looked up some Devin Lloyd highlights before I made this video, just so I could soak in how good of a linebacker he actually is. And I feel like I have 3 solid teams that desperately need him. One, the Washington Commanders. Love Bobby Wagner, one of the best to ever do it. First ballot Hall of Famer, has led the league in tackles every year since coming in. He is aging. The Commanders' defense is aging terribly. They need Devin Lloyd to come in, a young spark, to carry and build around on this defense. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys, who they do have 2 first-round picks this upcoming draft. Do you spend it on a linebacker? Do you spend it on an edge? No matter what you do, you got to spend it all on the defense, because that defense is terrible. If you go and sign a guy like Devin Lloyd, that lets you use your picks on edges, on corners, maybe D-line depth. Maybe you go out and you get a receiver. Maybe you're like, okay, maybe we will take this first round pick for George Pickens. Maybe we will pair this guy with, let's say, a rookie wide receiver. Maybe we will just kind of manipulate the draft. A guy like Devin Lloyd, signing him helps the Dallas Cowboys tremendously. And then you have the Buffalo Bills, who produced zero All-Pro, zero All-Pro and zero Pro Bowl defensive players. And you got a guy in Matt Milano. Yes, he's a good linebacker, cannot stay on the field. The highlights I saw of Devin Lloyd, the way this man can read a quarterback's eyes, any team in the league needs him. I would like to see him on these three teams right here. Next, we have Big Mike Evans. Any team needs a Mike Evans. But when I tell you what he would do for the Buffalo Bills, who really do not have a solidified, solid wide receiver one, and say you want to keep a guy like Keon Coleman, there would be no one better for Keon Coleman to learn from than Mike Evans, because I feel like they're kind of the same type of player. Big guys need to learn how to use their body and create space using their strength in the open field. I think Mike Evans can teach Keon Coleman so much. Then you have the San Francisco 49ers, who are moving off of Ayuk. Really, they're really one light in the darkness that is consistent enough, I would say, would be Juwan Jennings. You add a Mike Evans next to Juwan Jennings, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be okay. And then a team like the Baltimore Ravens, who just keep finding these old players to sign. They went from D-Hop last year, and I feel like going from D-Hop to Mike Evans would be night and day. Not saying D-Hop is terrible. I just think this would be a massive upgrade, because Mike Evans still has gas in the tank. D-Hop, I feel like, was sputtering out, stopping. We were like, can Lamar Jackson take him back to the D-Hop that he was? Or is he just going to continue to be this guy that has fell off? And can he make some plays? Mike Evans would be a massive pickup for the Baltimore Ravens, and their first time really officially for Lamar Jackson having a stud wide receiver one. Things could get scary in Baltimore if Big Mike decides to go team up with Marvelous Lamar Jackson. Next, we have Tyler Linderbaum, a star center, one of the younger linemen in the league. I think a three-time All-Pro. We could see him go to the New York Giants with his older team. We could see him go to the Chargers, who desperately, we saw this year, need stability on that O-line. If you paired Tyler Linderbaum with Slater and then Joe Alt, the offensive line was already looking disgusting to start the season. They could not be pass rushed on. They could not be stopped when run blocking. When they were completely healthy, you add a consistent guy like Tyler Linderbaum and you get those two tackles healthy. This could be a team we could see win that division and potentially make a Super Bowl run. And then we have the Detroit Lions, who really have a crumbling O-line. You got older guys. Their center problem was awful this year. I think you brought a guy back. They lost several centers, something like that. They had a guard playing center at some point. The Lions desperately need a guy like this. I think I would like to see Tyler Linderbaum on the Chargers, though. On the Lions, I mean, that's probably the best option for them. Next, we have Malik Willis. This is one of my favorites, because the way this man went out there and performed for the Green Bay Packers sent him skyrocketing. But what teams are really going to put the time in with Malik Willis instead of drafting a rookie quarterback? My three teams: the Miami Dolphins, who have been vocal about wanting to move off of Tua Tagovailoa. I think you try to move off of Tua Tagovailoa's contract, you bring in a guy like Malik Willis, and this is where the rebuild starts. This is where the Dolphins start to look like, we'll say, the Seattle Seahawks when they brought in Geno Smith, a bridge quarterback until they can find their guy. But until they find their guy, maybe Malik Willis pans out to be that guy. Maybe he turns out that you built a whole team and you finally find your guy in the draft. The Dolphins desperately need a Malik Willis, and they need to move off of Tua Tagovailoa. Then you have the Arizona Cardinals, who, in the exact same situation that the Dolphins are in. You move off of Kyler Murray, you keep building your team until you find that guy, or maybe Malik Willis becomes that guy. My favorite, the Las Vegas Raiders. Maybe you shop that number one pick around. Why would you want to bring in Mendoza? As amazing as the quarterback as he sounds, no O-line, no wide receiver core. Your defense is still desperate for something, some spark. Your best defensive player wants to leave the team. There is a lot that the Raiders need to do before they worry about a quarterback. Malik Willis could be that great bridge quarterback until you complete building your team. Next, we have Kenneth Walker. Boy, I would be sick to my absolute stomach if he left my Seattle Seahawks. My top 3 landing spots for K9, the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry is aging. He is getting older. He is to the point where the Ravens need to reevaluate what their team is right now. What Derrick Henry brings to this team is invaluable, but what you could get with Kenneth Walker, Lamar Jackson, your tight end room and your receivers, I think Kenneth Walker fits this team better versus, I won't say he's a great receiver out of the backfield. I think he's an underrated receiver out of the backfield. I think he could be a better receiver if he gets used more. We just use Charbonnet more of a receiving back. You get Kenneth Walker out there, he gives you that versatility. He gives you the outside run, the inside run, and I just think he would be a good next step if you decide to move off of Derrick Henry. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs again. Desperately need a running back. Same thing I said with Breece Hall. And then we have the Denver Broncos. They need Kenneth Walker desperately because one, is Dobbins going to come back and still have the same problem he's had year after year after year after year, not being able to stay healthy? Is your rookie running back, Harvey, going to be able to progress as a running back? I think you bring in K9, you're going to have that K9 and Charbonnet type feel for the Denver Broncos, which is what helped the Seattle Seahawks get to the Super Bowl. And I really feel like that's one of the main pieces the Denver Broncos are missing. Next, we have Isaiah Likely. I won't say my favorite free agent tight end. I think Isaiah Likely is a underrated tight end in the NFL. I think he could help a team like the New England Patriots. I don't think Hunter Henry is a bad option. I think if you have a Hunter Henry and you have an Isaiah Likely, you get that dynamic duo, kind of like a Mark Andrews and an Isaiah Likely. You have a big athletic guy that you can put on the outside. You can put on the line. He can block. He can run the routes. He can do everything. I think he's just not getting the reps he deserves over in the Baltimore area. Next, little flip-flop here. Kyle Pitts leaves. You get Isaiah Likely, who I think has the same, I want to say, issues that Kyle Pitts has. He's here and he's not here. He's hot, he's streaky, but at the top, he looks like an absolute dog. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, if Kelsey retires, they are desperately going to need a tight end. Who is it over there? Noah Gray? Or is that I always get their tight end mixed up with their other white receiver. I'm going to be completely honest with y'all. Isaiah Likely would be an amazing spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. And speaking of amazing players for the Kansas City Chiefs, next we have Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is still a generational tight end, and I think he can go out there and prove that. Kansas City Chiefs would be one of the ones to unlock that potential. I have the Green Bay Packers on here because has Kraft ever had a fully healthy season? You bring him in and you pair him with a guy like Kyle Pitts, and I'm not saying he's going to take Kraft's spot. I'm saying that's going to put less pressure on Kraft. That's going to put less reps on him, and he's going to be able to stay healthy, hopefully, through the entire season. And then we have the Philadelphia Eagles, who Dallas Goedert's a free agent, getting older at the tight end position. Do you bring in a guy like Kyle Pitts, like you brought in Saquon Barkley, because he was undervalued on his team and for a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who completes most of his passes on routes across the field, I think Kyle Pitts could be amazing for this team. And last but not least, before we get on to where we think Alec Pierce could land, let me know what free agent you want to see your team sign down in the comments. We have Alec Pierce, who I think a very streaky wide receiver. I think he has a good skill set. I think he can do really great in the right system. One, the Las Vegas Raiders desperately need something in their wide receiver room. I think their number one wide receiver, if you're not counting Bowers, Thornton, Betch. I really can't even name wide receivers in the Raiders wide receiver room. You got to get a guy over there. If it's not, I don't even think Mike Evans would want to go over there. Mike Evans would want to compete for a ring. I think the Raiders have to look at bringing in Alec Pierce. Next, we have the New York Jets. Could Pierce want to chase the bag because that's going to be a team that's rebuilding? I think he could go over there and be a good pair with Garrett Wilson. And last but not least, the Pittsburgh Steelers desperately need another wide receiver. DK's good. Shout out my Seattle Seahawks. Calvin Austin is good. You need another guy over there that can bring some consistency and depth to the wide receiver room. I think Alec Pierce would be a great addition to the Seattle Seahawks. Ladies and gentlemen, those are my top 10 free agents going into the March 11th free agency start date. If you think I missed someone, if you think there should be someone else in these top 10 spots, let me know down in the comments. Who do you want your team to sign? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget, like and subscribe.